Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Alice, and today's video is going to be about this new moon solar eclipse in Libra that's on October 14th, and this is at 1:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can translate that time frame to wherever you are in the world. So this new moon solar eclipse is at 21 degrees and 8 minutes of Libra. So you can look to see where is that happening in your chart. What aspect of life is this happening in? Because this is an initiation into something new in the way in which you're relating to this aspect of your life, right? Libra is always going to be about how we relate to anything and everything in the outside world, because it's a yang sign. And so this is really about how we relate to things in the outside world. But of course, how we relate to anything in the outside world is first determined by how we're relating to ourselves. And so this is really about the reflections that we get in the outside world that assist us to actually really get to know what it is that we like, what it is that we love, and how we relate to things, and what that actually reflects back to us about our relationship with ourself first. As you likely know, Libra is ruled, also we could say Libra has Venus as a planetary guide to this archetypal consciousness within our own psyches. And so this is where all the self-reflection that we've had as Venus rules Taurus, the sign of Taurus, right? Where we're using our senses to really determine internally more about ourselves, and as I said, what we like, what we love, what really is dear in our own hearts. Venus, as it rules Taurus, is our heart chakra. And so this is about, being that Taurus is a yin sign, this is about really discerning internally our own evolutionary purpose, and what is it that is a resource to that? What is it that assists us to feel fueled, to also feel good, to be taken care of, to be supported, first and foremost, supported by ourselves. And Taurus is really about the natural core essence, how we're designed to be internally in this incarnation, in this evolutionary purpose through our lives. And so as Venus then rules Libra, this is where all the work that we've done to discern, what it is we like, what it is that is a resource to us personally on our evolutionary path, then we can see in the outside world is, is the reflections actually reflecting back that level of support. Are our relationships and anything and everything in our life and what we see as the outside world, are those reflections actually in support of our own evolutionary purpose? Are our relationships really in support of our own evolutionary purpose? And the themes that we're personally exploring in our life, are the relationships that we have and that we're cultivating, are they really resonant? And so when we have a new moon solar eclipse in Libra, this is going to be the cycle of really looking at emotionally, our emotional attachments to relationships in general. Of course, our own personal relationship with ourselves first, right? And we know with any new moon, this means the sun and the moon are aligned in the same degree of the sky, the same degree in our own charts. So there's this initiation happening internally, and how that is also congruent with what is the external world, or is it congruent with the external world, right? And if it's not, then we're going to likely have some initiations to do. And, if there are things that are congruent in our life, meaning the relationships in the outside world are a resource to us, how are we actually going about our next steps in that relationship, right? So, the thing about Libra is that this is very much this checkpoint around the reflections in our outside world, around our relationships and our relationship with ourselves. are we really self-reliant? Meaning that, are we actually entering relationships that are resonant and congruent with our evolutionary purpose and what feels good to us, but also would assist us to grow and expand our consciousness? And Libra, this can be this checkpoint on, are we self-reliant? Meaning that relationships in the outside world are really meant to be a supplement to our lives. But ultimately, we must be self-reliant internally first, and also devoted to our own evolutionary path, our own evolutionary purpose. And so when we get to Libra consciousness, we can see that sometimes, if we have not done the discernment piece of Virgo, the sign that comes before Libra, where we're actually weeding out what isn't in support of our contribution to the collective consciousness and our own essence of the divine, who we are in relationship to the divine as an expression of the divine, then, with Libra, we can begin to see that if we haven't utilized that discernment and really made sure that we're being self-reliant, being willing to let go of things that are not in contribution to our service in the world, our personal service first, to our own path and the collective unconscious as well, then, we can actually set up for ourselves codependent relating and codependent relationships, where we begin to compromise in ways that actually compromise our own self-reliance as well as our own self-esteem. Because when we become dependent on other people at the expense of our own evolutionary purpose, and really just standing on our own 2 feet and being devoted to our own path, regardless of if this relationship is there or this situation or this circumstance is there, if we begin to enter relationships where we're compromising those things, then we are setting up codependent relationships, and we're actually chipping away at our own self-esteem. Because internally, we know that we are actually not engaging in right relationship with ourselves first, because our relationship to ourselves is very much about our own expansion and consciousness, our own evolutionary path, our own evolutionary purpose. And so when we begin to compromise that, then we begin to lose self-esteem. And of course, self-reliance and self-worth and self-care. And so this shows the quincunx between Taurus consciousness and Libra consciousness, which is a 150-degree angle, which is a Virgoan aspect, right? This is where a quincunx is about self-improvement. And so we can see that, our relationships are avenues by which we can learn where it is that we have to self-improve. But that could go 2 different ways. It could be that, this relationship is reflecting to me where it is I need to be more self-reliant, where it is I am losing touch with my own evolutionary momentum, my own evolutionary purpose, my own service to the divine as a divine essence, and as well as to my own personal path and purpose. Or, we could see that, wow, am I actually so devoted to my own needs that I'm actually not considering the needs of the relationship or the other person, first and foremost, the other person equally. Because when we recognize that we are in right relationship, it's going to be natural for us to resonate with each other's needs. Both needs are going to naturally just be met. There isn't going to be a discrepancy. We won't need to compromise any of our own needs or another person's needs. It will just come naturally for us. And so, we can look at this in regards to what adjustments need to be made, because it may be that we find that, wow, this actually isn't really right relationship anymore. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the relationship or with each individual person. It's just that we can outgrow each other. Not saying that one's better than the other, but just that we've outgrown the relationship. It's time to move on. It's time to actually, actually have this as an opportunity to recognize I'm devoted to my purpose, and this relationship doesn't support that anymore. And so this can be where we don't want to set up codependency. So the thing is that we recognize that the wheel of consciousness is actually always, moving and actually supporting each sign, meaning that, Virgo supports Libra, Libra supports Scorpio, Scorpio supports Sag. So we want to be sure that we're doing each sign in a way that is actually healthy for us personally, and always maintaining that self-reliance upon our own evolutionary momentum, our own evolutionary path. And so, if we've set up codependent relating with Libra, then when we get to Scorpio consciousness, this is where, we're going to likely have betrayals of trust, Scorpio. We're going to have manipulation in a negative way, Scorpio. We're going to have imbalances in relationship, imbalances in resources. We're going to have all the darker shades of Libra and Scorpio. And we're going to actually, the dark aspects of relating, and the unhealthy or not clean. This is why Scorpio is about exposing what is not clean relating, and what is toxic actually to the system, and ultimately, first and foremost, toxic to consciousness, but also how that can show up in every level, because the way we do one thing is the way we do most things, right? So this means that, we're talking about the emotional realm, we're talking about the physical realm, we're talking about spiritually, psychically, mentally, and so all of those are related, right? So if we have any toxicity in any of those, then it's going to be showing up in other aspects of our consciousness on an elemental basis, as well as, just as I said, emotionally, mentally, physically, intellectually, spiritually, all of those, right? So we want to be getting this balance with Libra. And we may have found that Libra learns through extremes, and so we can have these experiences where we realize, wow, this is really not balanced. How can we bring this into balance? Or is it possible? Is it really probable to bring this kind of relationship in balance? And if not, then it may be that's what the cleansing will be when we get to Scorpio consciousness. Now, the thing is, if we're codependent really relating, we also cannot establish intimacy. We can't establish true intimacy or deep intimacy. And so, again, another, reason to actually make sure that our relationships are mutually beneficial, they're equally supportive, they're energetically a match, and that there's energy and movement within the relationship that is assisting both people on their evolutionary path, and not setting up codependency or imbalances. And so we want to be doing that work. And when we look at this new moon solar eclipse is, coming from full moon in Aries, this can be, we've gotten the opportunity to look at, what are my needs, Aries? What are my desires, Aries? What do I want to act upon, Aries, right? And what relationships actually are resonant with that, and reflecting momentum towards what it is that we're initiating in our lives, and who we are, what we want, what we desire, and what we're really going for with our own evolutionary momentum. And so this can be setting up new initiations around How do I want to act upon my own behalf in this relationship or circumstance, situation, something in the outside world? Is this actually going to be something that I can receive back from, or is this something that's going to just deplete my energy because I'm giving too much? I'm applying too much energy and I'm not getting much back in return. You know, we need to think about these things so that we are really supporting ourselves first. And sometimes, you know, that can even mean supporting the other person by letting go of the relationship. And so, you know, Venus at this new moon solar eclipse is in Virgo. And so this is, you know, referring back to this Virgoan consciousness, like, what are we really valuing? What is valuable in our own garden of consciousness and what we're cultivating in our personal garden of consciousness as a contribution to the collective garden and consciousness? Where is it that we need to have discernment? We have Mercury, which rules, interestingly, Venus and Mercury are in a mutual reception, which means that Venus is in Virgo, in Mercury's sign, and Mercury is in Venus's sign. So Mercury is in Libra. It's in a balsamic conjunction to the sun, and the moon is in a new phase conjunction to Mercury. And so this is, you know, emotionally looking at what do I need? What is my internal senses telling me about my relationships, and where is it that I need to actually have some more discernment in my relating and relationships? And also, you know, important to look at that this new moon solar eclipse is also in a quincunx to Uranus retrograde in Taurus. And so this is, you know, Venus's sign. So this is, okay, the moon and the sun in this quincunx with Uranus. And, well, we could say Uranus is in a quincunx to the sun, and the moon is in a quincunx to Uranus, just to be technically accurate. Because we always want to speak to the faster moving planet first, and everything, if you don't already know, everything in the chart is always compared to the sun. So, you know, this is it's a quincunx, so this is a Virgoan aspect. We could also say that a quincunx is a Scorpio aspect as well, but where we do have both going on with this sun, moon, and Uranus quincunxes here. And so this is really, you know, again, discerning internally, emotionally, what are our values? Where is it that we need to be more self-reliant to our own personal evolutionary purpose? What relationships really resonate with that, and what relationships may be actually codependent, where there's an imbalance of support, and you know, is there relationships we need to let go of? Is there relationships that we need to just make some adjustments to, so that it is naturally supportive to both people, both situations, both circumstances, however it shows up for you? And, you know, Uranus quincunx the sun, you know, can be like, we might need to do some detoxing. You know, we might have some aha moments and some sudden insights. We might be wanting to pay attention to the nervous system. You know, what are we sensing in regards to our relationships internally? Are we feeling comfortable in our relationships? Are we feeling too comfortable in our relationships? Are we feeling anxiety in our relationships? Is something just not quite right? Or are we having sudden insights around what we could be having in relationship? So, you know, paying attention to the nervous system and paying attention to these aha moments. We might have moments where we recognize, suddenly we realize, like, I don't know how long this relationship can go on when I recognize what's really, really important to me. Or I don't know if I'm seeing this relationship in the way that I was seeing, you know, or maybe I'm recognizing suddenly that, oh wow, maybe we really aren't compatible, or maybe we really are compatible. You know, it can always go both ways. And so we want to be looking at that. But with Uranus retrograde in Taurus, I mean, it is retrograde. So this is kind of doing internal work around, you know, really what we're sensing, and really having kind of a more integral, or what it is going to bring more integrity to our lives, meaning that all aspects of our lives are really working in a smooth way that actually does facilitate our evolutionary momentum, and is facilitating our heart, you know, is really resonant with our heart, really actually supportive of what we love and our own personal self-love, our own personal value, our own personal needs. So that's an important piece. And, you know, the sun and the moon are within square to Pluto. And so this piece too, and we know the nodes are still also square Pluto. So this is speaking, I think, to, again, the cleansing piece. You know, are we structuring our consciousness and our own lives, our own foundations, in a healthy way? Meaning our needs are being met. The needs of anything and everything in the outside world that we relate to, is that being met as well, in order to continue to grow and expand and, you know, have healthy and stable foundations. Pluto is still helping us, because the thing is, I keep getting this where it's like, you know, when Pluto moves into Aquarius for good in November of 2024, we really want to make sure that everything that we're bringing in to that is what we would want. We don't want to bring any dead weight into it, because this is like basically bringing things into the new world. What world are we creating for ourselves? So we want to do as much cleanup as we can around why we may be attached to certain things. And, you know, is that coming from a place that's healthy, or is it coming from a place that is actually codependent? Is the attachment coming from a place where we're not trusting ourselves to meet our needs? And are we therefore holding on to things because we think that our needs need to be coming from something out there in our world, our relationships, right? And, you know, remember that when we let go of things that actually aren't healthy, then we can attract what is healthy to us. And so, you know, I think sometimes we can hold on to things because they're comfortable, but actually in the long run, they're going to be really uncomfortable. And so if we let go of things that aren't really working for us, we're already getting the insight that it's not really working. It's not really what we want in the long game of things. Then we might want to see where and when it's time to let go, so that we can actually attract the support that is actually healthier for us. And sometimes that means being willing to just trust ourselves, being willing to go it alone, being willing to stand on our own 2 feet, and really be really dedicated to our own evolutionary purpose. You know, I find that a lot of us, and by the way, those of us with Pluto and Libra, the nodes are going to be moving over our Plutos, right? So this can definitely be a maturation phase in regards to power versus disempowerment in relating and relationships. And I find that so many in the Pluto Libra generation really, you know, look at life in a way where having a partner or having relationships comes first, and then some kind of purpose. And so this sets up a codependent relating style, because really our evolutionary purpose, our own purpose, what brings meaning to our lives on a personal level, regardless of other people, what is it that's actually, you know, meaningful for us as a contribution to the collective consciousness, you know, through our work or through our, you know, you could say dharma, you know, that has to come first and foremost as an obligation. And then, you know, then we are whole, and through that wholeness then we attract someone else that is whole, so rather than codependent. And so if we're looking at relationships, like, we need to get that first. If we're looking at relationships based on just, you know, sexual attraction or attraction, rather than really foundations that are already established within oneself first, and also even foundations in relating first before all of the other stuff, then, you know, we can be setting up codependent relating, and therefore all the shadow aspects of Scorpio. And you know, we can experience loss of ourselves, loss of connection to our own soul. So we would say soul loss. I mean, you can't really lose your soul, but you can lose touch with your soul. And when we're in codependency, we lose touch with our own soul. So we become disassociated and fragmented. And this is where we just attract those that will take from us. We will attract relationships that will be depleting rather than supportive. And, you know, even in sexual bonds or intimate bonds, really the sex isn't great if there's an agenda behind it, even if it's unconscious. And remember that anything that's unconscious is just things we're not willing to face consciously. So, you know, we want to be looking at that stuff because, hey, you know, who doesn't want great sex, right? Who doesn't want intimacy, deep, like rich intimacy? Well, you have to earn that, which means earning it through not necessarily needing it, but needing the foundations of our own sovereignty first, and our own self-worth that comes from within first, our own self-reliance first. And then we're naturally going to attract relationships that are going to not have an agenda, but are actually going to be mutually supportive, and actually just a nice, you know, icing on the cake of our own lives, right? It's an added bonus to our lives, and a true gift, because we really can't experience deep, rich intimacy and deep, beautiful sexuality with others if we have not established our own evolutionary purpose and really being devoted to that first to begin with. So what is it, you know? What is your relationship to your own evolutionary purpose? We want to be real clear about that as we're at this new moon solar eclipse. So we're going to have a full moon, partial lunar eclipse in Taurus at about 5 degrees-ish, almost 6 degrees in Taurus on October 28th. And so I'm going to do a video about that. It'll be a separate video, but I hope this video has been helpful for you. And if you do find it helpful, please do like the video. It really means a lot to me. Thank you so much for those of you that do. And let me know in the comments if you'd like. I'd love to hear what you think. If you have anything to add to the conversation, it always makes the conversation more rich. I love interacting with you, so if you feel inclined, please do. It's always a gift and a pleasure. And if you know anyone that might find this video helpful, please do feel free to share. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do if you like. And I'll see you on the next video.